Oh, I see. Well, the idea was, I was always interested in the idea of plague, disease, and the thing about the lower form and the higher form. The vampires were kind of the higher form, but some of them were degenerating into this kind of wood ghoul type of stuff. And actually, a big influence on that was an author called Mervyn Peake, who wrote a novella called Boy in Darkness, and it was about, and it's also sort of echoed in the Island of Dr. Moreau, where people become bestial or more bestial through whatever machinations. So having those vampires, you couldn't have vampires, the ones in the black, and that speak. It would have been too much of a battle. I guess it's like what Howard Hawks said about Land of the Pharaohs. He said like, this wasn't one of your best films, so why is that? He says, well, I didn't know what a pharaoh sounded like. Well, I didn't know it. But, you go back there and what a vampire would really sound like. I knew what the vampire sounded like in the movies, but I just thought it was easier to do it that way and just have Lemora be the one to speak, and the old lady.
Was there any thoughts to dumbing it down? I mean, it's very high end, and it probably goes over a lot of people's heads. Was there any thoughts where we have to slicken this up at any point by you?
No, it really wasn't, because in the end it seemed like if you could get a film for that money on and be about vampires, and you saw people biting people on the neck, and that would be it. I mean, it would work. Of course, it did, because it was, as you said, I didn't make it. And I probably should have done a little more of that, in retrospect, but there's a lot of things I should have done.
There's so much subtext just dripping from this film in so many ways. My question is, where did the gangster idea come from?
Well, I think, and I don't remember how Bob and I came up with that one, but I think, as I remember it, I definitely wanted to do something that wasn't, out in Transylvania. I didn't want to do something that we'd seen before, so I thought setting it, say, in the 30s in the Deep South would be an interesting thing. And then I have a Southern background, so that song about the old lady singing, was my grandmother sang that to me when I was a kid and scared the hell out of me with it. So a lot of stuff that I actually took, believable or not, from my own life in that movie.
Had you done any theater beforehand? Because even when they danced and the people were dancing around, there was a lot of pictures they would see in theater, but not people were brave enough or interesting enough to actually put into film. Had you done any theater before?
Well, yeah. I mean, I was in the film department at UCLA, but I did some acting and some directing in theater previous to college. Yeah.
Very good.
How many shooting days?
Oh boy. Well, like I said, we had a shutdown that we had to, regroup and redo. So I would say it was about a little over a month, all told. And we were going to lickety split. And I felt like this famous, you probably know the guy, William One Take Bodine, because, the guy with the flat would fall down and he'd go, great, bring it. And the flat fell down. He said, we don't have time, we gotta go. That's what I was feeling like doing this film.
Right there.
Yes, indeed it was. It had like at least 3 distributors. It ping-ponged around through, like I said, 3 distributors. The first was, their names were Wakefield Orloff. Wakefield Orloff, is that right? I think it was. And they released, their big hit was the thing with Burt Lancaster and Kirk Douglas. It was called, Executive Decision or Executive... Yes, Executive Action, exactly. And that was their hit, and they had this, and then somebody else picked it up, and somebody else picked it up, and every time they picked it up, they changed the title. So it was first Lemora, then it was Lemora Lady Dracula, then it was The Lady Dracula, like that.
Did this play late night television?
Yes, it did. In fact, it's very funny because Elvira used to show it. And the first time that my father, who was the actual executive producer, calls me up and goes, "There's some crazy woman making fun of our movie on the television."
But that had to be memorable to someone who was sitting at home at like 2 o'clock in the morning watching
A lot of people, the biggest fan of this movie, I would say it, I haven't met anybody this obsessed, This guy with a friend of his, when it wasn't available anywhere, they were living, I think it was in Richmond, and they went down to Norfolk and drove down to Norfolk and rented a motel room because it was being shown locally on Norfolk television with a camera to take it off the TV monitor. Right. Right, that's what I said.
I saw someone else with their hand up. Right there.
Have you worked in film since?
Since this? Yes, I have. I'm grateful to say, yes, I have. I didn't put me in movie jail for this one. I did co-wrote a movie called Eating Raoul. And I did all the direction in it. And anyway, so yeah. And oh yes, this is something I don't really say. Yes, Stunt Rock. I actually appeared in Stunt Rock. Hey, thank you so much. That's actually out on DVD. Everything's going to be out on DVD. Wow.
Right there.
What about all those stories about your film being banned by the Catholic Church?
I love that stuff. I don't know if that ever was true. I mean, the fact that I was told that it had a C rating from the Legion of Decency. You know, I thought I was in great company because a film coming up here, Baby Doll, got this big C too. So, you know, that was a favorite film of mine, so I was sort of happy to hear that. But I don't know if it's true. It might have been some sort of publicity that somewhere in the misty past somebody came up with.
Did you see the film Coraline? There's a weird feeling.
I did see that.
Did you notice any of that? Did you
Yeah, there was definitely that. Well, I'll tell you another film that was a big deal for me was Moonfleet by Fritz Lang. It was a totally favorite film, and it was another one of those. And of course, what's the other one with Robert Mitchum? The Night of the Hunter. Yeah, I mean anything with like kids, you know, nighttime quest, journey, all those things were like boiling around in our minds when we were working on this.
Time for one more question. Right there.
How old was the Lila character when this film was made?
When we made the film, she was 17.
Any other questions? Right there.
Talk about High Pike.
Talk about High Pike. Boy, there's a lot to say. Well, you know, he was from UCLA. He was in the theater department. And at the time I knew him, his name was Montgomery Pike. So, I mean, when he told me his name was High Pike, I said, well, why don't you call yourself Turn? You know, so he was crazy. And we had all these people come in to read for the bus driver, as we had for all the other characters. And he came in, and he, you know, I mean, there wasn't any contest. He's truly out of his skull. And so that's, I don't know, yeah. High Pike, I can't think of all that. I remember one time when he came in and to read, and he called me on the phone, and he asked if someone could pick him up for the audition, because a sailor had stolen his book of press clippings in an alley. And what bus would he take to get here if he had to? Then he came in, and he said, I'll never forget one thing he said to me was, when I was bad, you know, my father used to put me in a corner, and he thought it was a punishment, but that's where I wanted to be. You can think that, right? I swear. So, he's a natural or an unnatural, one of the two, or both.